Are you too kind? It could be destroying you inside. There is a very popular idea that almost no one questions: the kinder a person is, the better they are. Kindness is often treated as a pure, almost untouchable virtue. From an early age we hear phrases such as "always be kind," "put others first," "helping is always the right thing." But what almost no one tells us is that in some cases, this kindness can slowly turn into emotional exhaustion. Maybe you know someone like that. Or maybe it's you. That person who always listens, always helps, always solves problems. The one who practices empathy with everyone, but rarely gets the same care back. Over time, this pattern can lead to something silent and dangerous: self-neglect, when caring for others becomes more important than taking care of oneself. And this is where the side that almost no one talks about begins. When the need to help mixes with people-pleasing, one begins to ignore one's own boundaries. What seemed like just generosity can evolve into compassion fatigue, silent resentment, and even emotional burnout. The most curious thing is that many of these people don't even realize what is happening. They believe they are being good, strong, and selfless. But sometimes, behind this kindness is something psychologists call pathological altruism, when helping others comes at the cost of one's own emotional health and even one's own self-worth. Then an uncomfortable but necessary question arises: what if part of your goodness is not authenticity, but emotional survival? Over the next few minutes, we'll explore the hidden side of kindness, the one that can breed resentment, exhaustion, and emotional invisibility, and, most importantly, how to transform that kindness into something healthy, balanced, and truly powerful. There is a curious detail that few people realize: many of the people best known for kindness are also the most emotionally tired. They are the ones who always say, "Of course, I help," even when they are already at the limit. Over time, this constant posture of empathy and care for others begins to take a silent toll. And this price usually appears in the form of emotional exhaustion. Think of that friend everyone looks for when they're in crisis. He listens, advises, welcomes. But rarely does anyone ask how he really is. Gradually, this dynamic creates a dangerous pattern of self-neglect, where the person learns to always put their own needs last. The problem is that, when this becomes a habit, self-worth begins to depend on how much she can help others. Over time, this constant generosity can evolve into something psychologists call compassion fatigue. The person continues to be kind, continues to offer support, but inside begins to feel a deep weariness. It is as if the emotional energy is slowly being drained. And it is precisely at this point that an important question arises: is all kindness really healthy? From a young age, we learn a very beautiful narrative about kindness. Movies, stories, and even family advice often present kindness as something always simple, always correct, and always rewarded. The idea is almost romantic: be kind and the world will be kind to you. But real life rarely works so perfectly. In practice, when someone shows a lot of empathy and is always willing to help, some people start to get used to it. What was once a generous gesture is now seen as an obligation. Without realizing it, the kind person begins to ignore their own boundaries, believing that saying no would be a sign of selfishness or lack of character. That's the point where goodness can start to slip into something more complicated. When helping others becomes an automatic reflex, people-pleasing often arises, that impulse to keep everyone happy, even if it costs them their peace. And that's exactly where the risk of burnout and emotional exhaustion starts to grow quietly. Often, the story of excessive kindness begins very early, back in childhood. Some children learn at an early age that being nice, polite, and pleasant is the surest way to receive love and approval. It is not something conscious, it is a silent emotional learning. Gradually, the child associates his self-worth with how much he can please others. Imagine a child who realizes that he only gets attention when he behaves perfectly or when he helps everyone. Without realizing it, she begins to develop a pattern of people-pleasing. She avoids conflicts, swallows frustrations, and does everything to maintain harmony. The problem is that, in this process, the emotional boundaries themselves are almost never taught. Over the years, this behavior can evolve into something that many psychologists call self-neglect. The person continues to practice empathy and care for everyone around them, but rarely learns to take care of themselves. And it is precisely here that the silent basis of emotional exhaustion begins to form, which we will see later. At some point in life, something changes almost imperceptibly. Kindness that was once spontaneous begins to become automatic, almost as a reflex of emotional survival. The person continues to smile, help, and demonstrate empathy, but inside he no longer feels the same lightness. It's like wearing a social mask that says, "It's okay with me," even when it's clearly not. This type of behavior often arises when someone has learned that keeping the peace is safer than expressing what they really feel. To avoid conflict, criticism, or rejection, the person starts to hide legitimate emotions. Over time, the need to maintain this kind image ends up weakening one's own authenticity, creating a disconnect between what the person feels and what they show the world. And when this mask stays on the face for too long, something starts to weigh down. The lack of boundaries and the constant habit of pleasing everyone begin to feed a deep emotional exhaustion. Gradually, emotional exhaustion intensifies. And, without even realizing it, the person may begin to carry feelings that they never imagined they would feel. In the beginning, helping others feels good. There's pride in being someone who can be trusted, someone who practices kindness and offers empathy when others need it. But when this care becomes a constant routine, without reciprocity, something begins to change inside. Small frustrations begin to appear, even if the kind person tries to ignore them. Imagine someone who is always available solves problems, listens to outbursts, helps with tasks, and still tries to keep everyone happy. The problem is that when this constant dedication happens without boundaries, it easily turns into self-neglect. The person spends so much time caring for others that their own needs are forgotten, as if they are not important. And it is at this point that something difficult to admit arises: silent resentment. It's not an explosive feeling at first, it's more like a slowly growing nuisance. The person continues to help, continues to smile, but inside begins to feel that they are being used or invisible. And when that resentment mixes with emotional exhaustion, it sets the stage for something even deeper that we'll look at in the next point. There is a very common psychological phenomenon among extremely empathetic people called compassion fatigue. It happens when someone constantly offers empathy, support, and emotional care, but almost never has time to recover. It's as if the heart is always working overtime, without a break. At first, the person doesn't even realize it, because helping others always seems like the right thing to do. As time goes on, however, the emotional energy begins to wane. The person continues to practice kindness, but no longer feels the same enthusiasm as before. Small interactions start to feel heavier, and what was once natural begins to generate emotional exhaustion. It is at this point that many people begin to feel clear signs of burnout, even outside the work environment. The most curious thing is that those who go through this rarely blame the excess of care for others. Instead, he thinks he needs to be stronger or try harder. Without realizing it, they continue to ignore their own boundaries and enter more and more into self-neglect. And when that cycle drags on, it can lead to an even quieter phenomenon: becoming emotionally invisible to others. There is a curious paradox in constant kindness. The more a person is always available, the more people around them can begin to take him or her for granted. At first, everyone values your empathy and your willingness to help. But, Over time, what was special is now seen as something normal, almost automatic. Without realizing it, the kind person begins to occupy a silent role in relationships that of permanent emotional support. She listens, advises, resolves conflicts, and maintains group harmony. The problem is that when someone never expresses their own boundaries, others rarely realize that those boundaries exist. And so a dangerous pattern of self-neglect is born. The consequence of this is subtle but powerful. The needs of the kind person begin to disappear from the social radar. No one asks if she's tired, if she needs help, or if she's experiencing emotional exhaustion. Gradually, a strange feeling of invisibility arises. And it is exactly at this point that repressed emotions begin to silently accumulate. When someone lives for a long time prioritizing others, something inevitable begins to happen inside. Unexpressed emotions accumulate. Small frustrations are swallowed up, irritations are ignored, and personal needs are postponed indefinitely. Kindness continues to appear on the outside, but on the inside a silent emotional pressure begins to emerge. This process usually goes hand in hand with self-neglect. The person is so focused on demonstrating empathy and keeping everyone comfortable that they avoid expressing feelings that are considered uncomfortable, such as anger, fatigue, or sadness. But ignored emotions don't disappear, they stay stored, like water accumulating behind a dam. Over time, this emotional pressure can turn into resentment and intensify emotional exhaustion. Sometimes the result appears in the form of unexpected outbursts, crying spells, or a sudden withdrawal from people. And it is precisely at this point that an important question arises: has this goodness always been genuine? Or did she, at some point, start to get confused with the need to please everyone? At some point, many people start to confuse two things that look the same but aren't: kindness and people-pleasing. True kindness is born of authenticity, of a genuine desire to help. People-pleasing, on the other hand, is born out of fear of rejection, conflict, or disappointing someone. On the outside the two behaviors seem identical, but on the inside the motivation is completely different. A simple way to notice this difference is to observe how you feel after helping someone. When kindness is healthy, there is satisfaction and lightness. But when it comes from people-pleasing, emotional exhaustion or even resentment often arises. The person helps, but deep down she feels that she has been pushed by the obligation to keep everyone happy. This pattern also usually appears when someone has difficulty establishing boundaries. Saying yes becomes an automatic reflex, even when the mind screams, "I really didn't mean to do that." Over time, this behavior can lead to emotional burnout and reinforce a cycle of self-neglect. And interestingly, science has a fascinating explanation for why very empathetic people can fall into this pattern so easily. There is a scientific reason why some people feel the emotions of others so deeply. Our brain has something called mirror neurons, a neurological system that allows us to experience, in part, what someone else is feeling. Thanks to this mechanism, we develop empathy and are able to connect emotionally with those around us. It is one of the most powerful foundations of human kindness. The problem arises when this empathy happens without clear boundaries. People who are very sensitive to the suffering of others may end up absorbing more emotions than they can handle. It's as if the brain is constantly reacting to the pains of others, activating stress responses over and over again. Over time, this can lead to emotional exhaustion and even burnout-like symptoms. That's why many professionals who work helping people, therapists, nurses, teachers, often face compassion fatigue. They continue to practice empathy every day, but without enough breaks to restore their emotional energy. And this is precisely where an essential skill arises that many kind people have never learned: protecting their kindness through healthy boundaries. There is a very common myth that says that establishing boundaries means becoming cold or selfish. But in reality, Boundaries are exactly what protect true kindness. Without them, the person ends up entering cycles of self-neglect, where helping others becomes more important than preserving one's own emotional health. Think of boundaries as the walls of a house. They don't exist to keep people away, but to protect what's inside. When someone learns to say "I can't do it now" or "this is beyond what I can do," they are actually preserving their emotional energy. This prevents emotional exhaustion and reduces the risk of burnout caused by excessive people-pleasing. A simple practice to start with is to observe small, everyday situations. For example, when someone asks you something you don't want to do, try pausing for a few seconds before responding. Ask yourself if you're acting out of authenticity or out of fear of disappointing. This little exercise already helps to strengthen self-worth and sets the stage for a much healthier way of living kindness. There is a huge difference between abandoning kindness and transforming it. Many people who realize the weight of people-pleasing please everyone think that they need to become tougher or more indifferent. But the real change isn't in stopping being kind, it's in aligning that kindness with authenticity and respect for one's self-worth. When one learns to balance empathy with boundaries, something powerful happens. Kindness ceases to be a form of self-neglect and becomes a conscious choice. Instead of helping out of obligation or fear of rejection, the person starts helping because they really want to. And interestingly, this drastically reduces emotional exhaustion and the risk of burnout. This type of transformation also dissolves the resentment that has often built up over the years. The person continues to be generous, continues to show empathy, but now there is balance. Kindness ceases to be a burden and becomes a true force, one that benefits others without destroying those who practice it. After all that we have talked about, it is worth stopping for a moment and asking yourself some sincere questions. Your kindness has come from a place of authenticity, or a habit of people-pleasing, please everyone? Do you help because you really want to, or because you feel like you need to keep everyone happy to feel valued? These questions may seem simple, but they often reveal deep patterns of self-neglect that have gone unnoticed for years. The truth is that practicing empathy and helping others is extremely valuable. The problem arises when this happens without boundaries. When a person constantly ignores their own needs, the almost inevitable result is emotional exhaustion, compassion fatigue, and even burnout. And ironically, the more depleted someone is, the less energy they have to offer the genuine goodness they really wanted to share. But hey, the good news: the solution isn't to stop being kind. The solution is to redefine what it means to be kind. True kindness also includes taking care of yourself, respecting your self-worth, and recognizing that saying no is sometimes a way to protect your emotional energy. When you learn to balance empathy with healthy boundaries, kindness is no longer a burden, and it is once again a force. So raise the invitation to reflect: where in your life do you need to set a limit? In what situations might your kindness be hiding resentment or emotional weariness? And most importantly, what would your life be like if your kindness also included you? If this content made sense to you, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because here we explore exactly this type of topic: psychology, human behavior, and practical tools to build an emotionally healthier life.